Alright y'all, so I got another pistol to cover today, more recent acquisition of mine, and I've been testing it out just a little bit, but even though I didn't put like a ton of rounds through this particular pistol, I can pretty much gather what I need to gather out of it. So the pistol we're going to be covering is this. This is a Girsan Regard 6. And you may think like, okay, well, it's just another Turk clone, 92, Beretta 92 clone, right? And you'd be mostly right, except this is a long slide version. As you can kind of see at the front end here, it's actually a teeny bit longer. And if you need a visual comparison, I've got my standard M9 here at Beretta, and you can kind of see maybe there, not the best comparison, but the slide and barrel are actually slightly longer. Let me line these up just a bit, so you kind of get an idea there. But yeah, the slide and barrel are slightly longer. And alongside the usual changes that Girsan has made to the frame, of course, so you have your, you got your finger grooves right here that are integral to the frame. The grips are also very slightly different from a regular 92, because I've tried to fit some 92 grips on these, and it doesn't quite line up perfectly. You kind of have to file the holes just a little bit to get the screw holes to line up. So but that is some of the more external changes. But yeah, I mean, it's a long slide Turk 92 clone, and the reason why I got this is because nobody really makes a long slide version of a 92 series pistol, so I thought this was really kind of cool, actually. And of course, the looks of this gun are just, 92s always have a very classic kind of timeless look, and this is no different, even if it is a Turkish clone. And I know a lot of people have reservations about Turkish weapons, but for me, they've actually been honestly pretty decent. I'm not gonna lie. Not to say anything about the country of Turkey and its politics and history and things like that, but hey, good gun's a good gun. So yeah, all the controls are basic standard 92. I will say though, the overall kind of like feeling of quality is definitely less on these Girsans than it is with your run-of-the-mill Berettas, right? One of the things that kind of irked me a little bit was the take down button lever latch thing here. So the spring that holds that in place is kind of anemic. It feels very cheap, very not as strong, not as positive as the Beretta. The safety and decocker as well definitely does not feel as smooth or as responsive as a Beretta does. I mean, it still works just fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but for me, it's definitely not as enjoyable. It's a little sharper than the rounded edges. So maybe I can illustrate that here. So especially on, well, this is a terrible angle, but you can see here, this radius is, man, it's not focusing at all. Anyway, this radius right here is very sharp. It's very sudden. Versus the M9 is not as sharp in radius. It's I don't know. It's smoothed out a little bit better. Just a minor thing. The slide lock release levers as well are also very slightly differently shaped, but it doesn't functionally matter. And of course, the hammer itself, physical hammer, has a different kind of little cutout there in the hammer. So that is not present on the Berettas either. So internally, though, it is slightly different, and I will take it apart here to demonstrate that. So, and I need the M9 taken apart as well to demonstrate why or how these things are different. So, looking at the slides here, hopefully it's not too oily or greasy. So on this side here, we have the M9, and this part here is the Girsan. So there is a cut. This is really hard to do with one hand. So if you look here on this side, so you get the light there, it is solid metal all the way down. There is no relief cut in there. Versus the Beretta M9, you can see here, it doesn't show up very well, it's black on black, but work with me here. There is a actual cut in the slide all the way down here. Now that is to accommodate the slide stop oversized pin thing. So this is the M9 frame, and if you look here, this little semicircle half moon thing is a stop for the slide that was put in there after the military trial M9 slides were coming off the back of the frame due to issues and hitting people in the face. So the engineers put that little disc in there, and then the corresponding cut in the slide there to make sure that the gun will not, the slide will not come off the frame. The Girsan absolutely does not have that. So this is the Girsan frame you can see right here, same location. There is no semicircle half moon there. So an interesting frame difference if you were not aware of that. However, that does have practical implications, because if you're weird and want to swap around your parts and things, you cannot put a Girsan slide on a Beretta frame, because that cut needs to be there in the slide the cut needs to be there on the slide to fit on the frame, so that way you can ride over that stop. You can, however, put a Beretta slide on a Girsan frame, and I'll demonstrate that here real quick. It's kind of a weird fit. I mean, when you take parts from different manufacturers like that, it will be a little different. But here you can see that's my M9 slide on the Girsan frame, and yes, it does cycle just fine. Locks open, feeds from a magazine, so on and so forth. So yeah, that will work. It's just a little tight. So with all that too, me just kind of goofing around, the recoil spring and guide rod are unique to this pistol. So it's non-captive, of course, but it is longer and of a different shape than other guide rods I've seen for 92 style pistols. So this slide and this guide rod will not fit on any other frame that I've tried. It has to be on this one due to how it's cut. And then of course the slide itself has corresponding, in here on the front cap there is a corresponding cut to fit the guide rod. That also means, however, that your standard length, full-size guide rods will not fit in this extended Girsan length. But I imagine the recoil springs will probably work just fine. So if, like, I don't know, if I wanted to tune this for some reason to put like some competition springs in it, lighter recoil spring, I'm sure I could. They're not that different in dimension. So the locking blocks, however, are the same. So like I can take the barrel out of this one and put it in the M9 frame or M9 slide, and it appears to work. I wouldn't want to fire it that way, but I guess you could put it in there if you really needed to. But that's good also because if the falling block in here does fail, like the wings shear off from repeated use, right? A lot of thousands of rounds. You can get a replacement Beretta part and put that in there. It'll probably work. I don't think I'm going to get to that round count to where that's necessary, but it does happen. It is a failure point of these pistols. But that, like I said, that's thousands and thousands of rounds. Like, you really got to be running these things hard. Another interesting point with these is for like parts compatibility and things is I have a Beretta 92X compact, right? And weirdly enough, that slide will actually fit and cycle on the Girsan frame, but as anyone knows, the Beretta 92 full-size slides and frames are not cross-compatible with the compact slide and frames. It has to be specially cut differently for those locking block geometries. It's very, very slightly different. I don't have my compact out here to show you, but take my word for it that if you really try to take a regular like full-size frame like this, not a Centurion frame, but a full-size frame, and you try to put a compact slide on here, it's not going to work. Vice versa as well. If you try to take a full-length slide and try to put it on a compact frame, it's not going to work out for you. The geometries are in fact different. But weirdly enough, for some reason, even though this Girsan frame, even though it would readily takes the full-size slide, and it works just fine. I can also put my compact slide in here, which I think is weird. I'm not sure I'd want to fire it that way, because when I do put it on here, it's very tight and it feels kind of wrong. So I wouldn't really recommend doing that, but it did physically fit, and it was actually cycling. So that is a interesting oddity. For the Beretta 92 like 22 LR conversion uppers that I have, like I've ran that plenty of times on this frame as well, and it works just fine. So that's really cool. So I imagine if the 22 conversion kit works on this frame, it probably works on all of the Girsan pistols. So that's a nice feature to go with it. So having covered all of that, because I have a lot of 92 series pistols and parts and things, let's put this back together. So yeah, really honestly, it's a 92 pistol. What else do I have to say about it? As far as like trigger pull and feel, I would say definitely different from all the other Berettas I've tried. The double action pull was almost too heavy, and it still feels almost a little too heavy for me now. It's noticeably heavier and not as smooth as any of my Berettas out of the box, right? And when I got this pistol, the Girsan, it didn't look like anyone had really shot it or fired it, or if they did, it was very, very little, because there was no brass marks hardly anywhere in the gun, no carbon, nothing. But yeah, the double action on this it's quite heavy, and it doesn't feel very smooth. Versus this it's very well, like, kind of it's known to me. Like, I'm familiar with this. It feels like how it's supposed to feel. But the Girsan, definitely, like, I am struggling to get that through. It just not as definite either in the break, but yeah, it is quite heavy. Now the single action, I would say, is actually lighter and crisper on this than it is on factory standard Beretta, and I feel like that may have something to do with like how they intentioned this pistol to be, because usually your long slide pistols imply like you're going to be using it like competition, or competition, or you're really trying to like dial in the accuracy for some nice shooting, some nice groups, because longer sight radius and all that, right? So it seems to me that it makes sense that they would make the single action a little better, because it definitely is much lighter and crisper on this versus the M9, or even my 96 that I converted to 9mm, or even my 92X compact. The single actions are nowhere near as good as the Girsan's is. Weirdly enough, though, when I first got this gun and I was testing out the trigger and dry firing it, there was a very strange squeaking sound on the inside of the gun. So it only happened in double action too. So if I took my finger here and I was kind of testing out the double action like this, it would squeak a lot. Like you could really, really hear it. It doesn't do it now, and it's gone away since, but it had some real noticeable squeaking in the action, like right back in here. And I'm still not quite sure what caused that. Maybe it is just so brand new and so tight on the inside that the metal was just rubbing against each other, and it just needed some break-in. But that's just an oddity that I noticed that I've never encountered with any other 92 series pistol. So weird, but it's gone away since, so maybe it is just break-in. As far as reliability, this thing has been 100%. I mean, 92 series pistols tend to be very reliable, and this is absolutely no exception. I'm very happy about that, because when you start making clones of pistols and things, anything can go wrong, especially when you don't have like the specific specs that the original manufacturers have that the cloners probably don't, or maybe they're cutting some corners to make these pistols affordable and things like that. There's all manner of things that could change between a clone pistol versus the real deal, and reliability sometimes can suffer because of that. However, I've had no issues with this. As far as magazines, though, magazines is an interesting thing with this, because it likes some of them and it hates others. And what I mean by that is some of the magazine, well, all my usual 92 magazines fit in this gun and feed and lock back just fine. However, on ejecting them out of the frame, right, some of them kind of lazily just kind of slop out, and this one now is not even coming out. You have to kind of pull it out. So I don't know what is catching on the inside. If the dimensions are slightly different in the frame, just ever so slightly, like a couple thousandths or something, and they don't shoot out of the gun versus my M9 here. Put the surplus mag in, it comes right out every time. I have no issues with it. So, and this is well, the behavior changes depending on the make of the magazine. So this is an old surplus government issue M9 magazine. I've got a Beretta sand resistant magazine here. I don't think it likes this one either very much, but it fits just fine, as we can see. And that one just kind of slops out a little bit. So if you're holding it up like this and your slide's locked back, it may or may not come out, but it's definitely not as energetic as the Berettas are. The other one that it really likes though is the aftermarket Metgar one. So I've got a 18 rounder Metgar magazine here. It loves this one. Like, it'll fit right in. It looks like it's right at home. Fits perfectly fine, and it ejects that thing like straight out, just boom, every time. And yeah, it really likes these Metgar mags over the Beretta brand mags. So that's just an interesting note to note. The original mag it came with, I'm not even sure. Well, this is not even the original mag that came with this gun. I bought this used at a pawn shop. This is a restricted 10-round Beretta made magazine. It has the PB right there on the bottom. This is the one it came with, so I don't really hardly even use this one, but it just kind of flops out too. It doesn't really fly out of the gun. So seems to be a trend with Beretta brand magazines versus Metgars. So just something to note. I don't know if that's the same for everyone's Girsan pistols, but it's definitely the case with mine. So in the future, if I want to run this thing like super fast or something, I either have to make an effort to actually like dump the mags out, or physically rip them out myself, which is kind of annoying because that's typically a problem I only have with like Glock pistols, But yeah, the Metgars though, I mean, good reputation. They work 100% just fine. So I have yet though to try the big 30 rounders, like the Stendo mags that they make, or even the 20 rounds that came with like my CX4 carbine. I have not tried those in this yet, so maybe someday I will. But yeah. So shooting experience though. So yeah, I mean, it shoots like a 92. Recoil is very mild. It's a big, heavy, chunky gun. Sight radius is good, of course. The sights are just a standard 3-dot, but the sight radius is slightly longer than your regular M9, ever so slightly. Because the barrel really isn't that much longer, but it is longer. So as far as accuracy goes, I was able to get pretty awesome groups with this, honestly, considering the conditions I was shooting in. It was very windy that day. I was shooting at 25 yards, and I was able to get 2.5, 2-inch groups, averaging more on the 2.5, repeatedly with this gun, despite my low amount of experience with this one specifically. I guess some motor skills do transfer if you're using a similar pistol. So I've shot 92 pistols quite a bit, but yeah, this one was performing very, very excellently for me. Great accuracy, nice groupings and everything. So very, very pleasurable shooting experience. I mean, it feels like a 92. As far as like the grip, even with these integrated finger grooves, honestly, I really didn't even notice them that much. The frame doesn't really feel that different in my hand than my M9 or 96. I honestly don't even really notice it. To me, it just feels like a 92 frame. So I know there's a lot of folks out there that have opinions one way or the other about finger grooves. I mean, you ask Glock owners whether or not finger grooves are a good idea, and you'll get debates until the end of time. And some people don't like the look of the finger grooves on the Girsan pistols, but I'm here to tell you, like, honestly, it never really occurred to me. I never thought in my shooting of this gun, I have like maybe 300, 350 rounds through it, that like, man, I hate these finger grooves, or wow, I really love these finger grooves. To me, it makes no difference at all whatsoever. So, but yeah, yeah. Other than that, it shot like a 92, decocks like a 92, double action, like I said, a little bit heavy. Single action is very good. Sights are standard. It's too bad though that there's no replacement here for the front sight. It's not like an A1 model or a Brigadier where you can replace that, or an X model for that matter. So that's a little But I mean, honestly, like their target audience for people who are buying this kind of pistol, I doubt they're really changing the sights out, you know. So I'm not overly concerned about it. Considering too, even on my 96 A1, I've left the sights stock and it's been shooting just fine for me. So I don't feel a need to change it out. So overall, I took a bit of a gamble on this because I was like, man, I don't know the quality of Girsan regard pistols in general. I tend to be a little bit leery of clone pistols for the reasons I mentioned before. But honestly, this one's actually performed very, very well for me. I'm happy with it. I'm happy definitely with the price I paid for it. So, you know, having some parts compatibility as well with actual Beretta brand parts and things is that's always good. Being able to swap the slides and use a 22 kit on here, that's always a plus in my book. So I'm glad the tolerances aren't so much that, or it's so different from the cloning process, if you will, that you can't use your normal line of 92 accessories. I do wish the grips were a little bit like more accessible though, because these grips are okay, but I'd rather put something maybe like some G10s or Hogue rubbers on here, maybe even some wood. I don't know. But I just know I'm going to have to deal with the headache of having to file the holes here on the grips just a little bit to get them to fit. That's kind of annoying, but a minor issue to worry about for a pistol that works as well as this one has. And I expect it to for many more hundreds, thousands of rounds. So yeah, I'm happy to say this is a definitely a different addition to my 92 series pistols collection. So like I said, I'm not aware of anyone that makes currently, or even really in the past. I don't think Beretta has made a long slide 92 pistol. If there is one out there, like I said, I'm not aware of it. So this one is definitely a little different, a little unique in its own way. So I'm glad the Turks are willing to, you know, offer interesting, I guess, variations on established pistols like this. So for people that want the option, hey, it's there, right? May not be the nicest pistol or as nice as a Beretta brand one, but hey, it's been working fine for me, and for the price, I can't really argue either. So honestly, it's not that bad. So yeah, I'm happy with it, and yeah, thought I'd just bring that to you guys and kind of showcase another Turkish pistol. My other experience with Turkish pistols, like my high power Regent and the TSOS 9mm 1911, have been pretty good. So from Girsan now, so yeah, not bad, and another +1 for the Turks in my book. So yeah. Yeah, these things are pretty cool, and yeah, if you come across one, these are not especially common. I've seen, this is the first one I've ever seen. The first one, I've handled and anything like that. So I've seen the regular size regards everywhere, but I have not seen the 6 model or the long slide. So pretty cool, pretty cool. It's too bad though that of course there's not a threaded barrel version of this. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't get like a special compensator like on my 96. That would be really cool to have another big compensator sticking out the end of this thing. Make it even more ridiculous and longer and huger, and Anyway, cool. Yeah, figured I'd bring this to you guys, and hope you enjoyed it and think this is an interesting take on the 92 series. I definitely think it is. But yeah, well, that's all I gotta say, and we'll see you next time.